That was Ağırlama by Erkan Oğur, by the way. Am I too nervous? No. Okay. I can be influenced very easily, but I got to have my own way, so I always had a tendency to do a creative job. My main role model was my sister. She's 6 years older than me, and she had this quick wit, a great taste of music, and a voice of an angel. So by seeing her, I started to sing at the age of 6, and I'm on stage since I was 9. So when I was in high school, I was definitely sure that I was going to study classical singing in a conservatory. So before, like 3 months before the conservatory exam, I went to see an instructor, a voice instructor, for the first time in my life. And the first question she asked me was, so why do you want to sing opera? And actually I didn't have a good answer to that. So the second question was, is your parents wealthy? Do they have a lot of money? And I was like, I don't know what's the relationship with that, but no. So, and she goes, well, then the chances that you can earn money from singing opera is very few, but why don't you sing me a song? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I sang a song, and she asked me if I know anything about jazz, and I had no idea. And she gave me a couple CDs and asked me to discover that genre. And that was the first and last voice class that I took before Berkeley. Of course, after that, I had no idea what to do with my life. I was just dreaming about studying classical singing. And my mom was a teacher, and my cousin works with children with special needs. So maybe to feel safe, I studied child development. But if it didn't related with human interaction, I wouldn't even try. And I was very lucky because it turned out to be a very creative field. And I figured out that the education of a young mind is extremely delicate, and the act of teaching most of the time doesn't exist, and the essence which is guiding has to carry out through humbleness and creativity, and it's a really hard job, so I liked it. And after I graduated, I started to work with deaf and hard of hearing children in a rehabilitation center. And I was working, those children had hearing aids or bionic ears, which is cochlear implantation, or both. And they were hearing sounds very mechanic through those aids, because it's like listening through a noisy telephone all the time. And to distinguish speaking from the sounds that surrounds us is really hard for them. So, and I was reading, and I was sure about the effects of music in general, and even I saw it in my life, how it transformed me and nurtured me in many ways. So I wanted to infuse music in the rehabilitation process of those children, and I designed musical activities, and I was using mostly listening, playing instruments, singing, and humor, which is very important in education. So seeing them, how their involvement in music reflected to their inclusion in school, language development, and self-concept was priceless. So it was amazing. So that work led me to do my master's degree on educational audiology in Hacettepe University. So I studied there one semester, and I started to lose productivity because my need of versatile expression kicked in. And and I didn't know what was that, and I was asking myself, why am I losing productivity? And I said, okay, don't freak out. What's wrong? Like, what's happening? And I said, I need to sing more. And there I understand that most of the time, like as Maslow said, we have a need of self-actualization, and most of the times that the things that you need can't be seen with the eye. So I started to be good to myself. And thanks to my first and last voice instructor back then, I was saving money since I was 16, in case if I need to make music someday. Yeah, and I applied to Berkeley, got accepted, and applied 62 different organizations, foundations, and individuals to find the tuition scholarship. And I found that scholarship and quit everything and came here to study music for the first time at the age of 24. And here's my favorite statements before I come here. It will be so hard to make it by yourself as a woman. You don't have money to sustain that education. You already have a job and a career. What are you looking for more? You're too old to have a music career. That's my favorite. You can't survive in that competitive place. And the list goes on like that, yeah. Anyways, for 6 years, I was doing something more tangible than music. Teaching is something that you can get quicker feedbacks, but music seems like you're a part of a change that can take like a couple hundred years. So I like both of those effects. So even if I came here to study music, I took classes for music education and music therapy. And I met with amazing people. They changed my vision. And actually, I'm living the life I want to live, but of course, everything had bad sides, but I feel alive, as free as I can be, and this is really great. So, but of course, like even the sweetest freedom can be unbearable when you're alone. So in spite of all those fears that my family faced with, their heart were always with me, and a feeling that was incredibly useful in my journey. So, and the last thing I want to say is there's a strong and very subtle subtext that goes along with that story, which is this is a scary and an unknown and risky path. And the moment, but how I deal with it is the moment I realize that I'm scared of something is the exact moment I decided to do it. Well, in the end, how can you reach to people and grow courage, and grow compassion in them without a courage in your heart? So that's what I believe.